It's one of the holiest shrines of Shia Islam. Today it's in ruins after a bomb attack that has provoked outrage and fear throughout Iraq. Early this morning, a small group of armed men dressed in police uniforms entered the Al-Askariya shrine and set off two powerful explosions. The blasts brought down the Great Golden Dome, which was one of the largest and most splendid in the Islamic world. Now only a blasted stump remains.
Over the last several years, no single person on this planet has had the blood of more innocent men, women, and children on his hands than Zarqawi.
Al-Zarqawi, Al-Qaeda operative.
He personified the dark, sadistic, and medieval vision of the future of beheadings, suicide bombings, and indiscriminate killings.
Just going to engage it here momentarily with a 500-pound bomb on the target.
Abu Musab al-Zarqawi is dead, killed by a U.S. airstrike.
It was an Air Force strike that eliminated that target, and there was no further direct fire engagement at that point. We knew exactly who was there. We knew it was Zarqawi, and that was the deliberate target that we went to get.
Now Zarqawi has met his end, and this violent man will never murder again. Zarqawi's death is a severe blow to Al-Qaeda.
الحكم على المدان صدام حسين المجيد بالإعدام شنقا حتى الموت لارتكاب قتل عمد كجريمة ضد النفس.
Army Captain Travis Patriquin. Remember the name.
Travis Patriquin has as much to do with the success that the Americans and the Iraqi government has as anyone else.
Today, Colonel Joe Harrington is the executive assistant to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. But in the summer of 2006, he and Patriquin were part of an armored brigade sent to take back the city of Ramadi from Al-Qaeda.
3 straight brigades had lost about 100 soldiers each. Ramadi was the most dangerous place in the world.
With a background in special forces, an Iraqi-style mustache, and passable Arabic, Patriquin bonded with a local sheikh, the flamboyant and slightly shady Sattar Abu Risha, who was fed up with Al-Qaeda and its murderous ways.
Sheikh Sattar was able to rally the other tribes to fight Al-Qaeda, and that's where Travis had such an influence in working with Sheikh Sattar.
Convincing the tribes their future lay with the American side marked the beginning of what became known as the Sunni Awakening. It involved arming and training the tribes to fight Al-Qaeda, a risky idea since the militias might someday turn against the U.S. To sell it, Patriquin created what is perhaps the most famous document of the Iraq War. Of all things, a stick figure PowerPoint briefing. It reads like Iraq for Dummies. Everyone wins except terrorists, which is okay because terrorists suck. 1 month later, Patriquin, Major Megan McHugh, and Specialist Vincent Pamonte were killed by a roadside bomb on their way from a meeting with Sheikh Sattar.
If you look at race by race, it was close. The cumulative effect, however, was not too close. It was a thumping.
Even the president could not find a silver lining this time, as Democrats partied from coast to coast.
Tonight is a great victory for the American people.
Republicans licked their wounds.
The people of Virginia, they have spoken, and I respect their decision.
Don Rumsfeld lost his job.
I've named a good man to succeed Don Rumsfeld, former CIA Director Bob Gates.
And both parties rethought the way they do business. Tonight, we'll assess the impact of election 2006. Good evening. Call it a revolution or a rebuke, or maybe the voters emphatically putting Washington on notice. However you measure this remarkable week, you've got to start with the numbers. Democrats are now in charge in the House. They needed 15 seats to retake the majority. They won, at latest count, at least 28 seats. And they took the Senate, too, winning the 6 seats they needed to claim a bare majority. Overnight, the face of congressional leadership changed.
Let's listen to Nancy Pelosi right now, I guess we could call her the incoming Speaker of the House of Representatives, the first woman ever to hold that responsibility.
And nowhere did the American people make it more clear that we need a new direction than in the war in Iraq. Stay the course has not made our country safer, has not honored our commitment to our troops, and has not made the region more stable. We cannot continue down this catastrophic path. And so we say to the President, Mr. President, we need a new direction in Iraq.
The largest number of deaths for U.S. forces have come in central and western Iraq. Roughly 1,100 deaths in Anbar province alone, home to 3 cities where there have been fierce battles, Fallujah, Ramadi, and Haditha.
Tonight in Iraq, the armed forces of the United States are engaged in a struggle that will determine the direction of the global war on terror and our safety here at home. The new strategy I outlined tonight will change America's course in Iraq and help us succeed in the fight against terror. The situation in Iraq is unacceptable to the American people, and it is unacceptable to me. Our troops in Iraq have fought bravely. They have done everything we have asked them to do. Where mistakes have been made, the responsibility rests with me. It is clear that we need to change our strategy in Iraq. America will change our strategy to help the Iraqis carry out their campaign to put down sectarian violence and bring security to the people of Baghdad. This will require increasing American force levels. So I've committed more than 20,000 additional American troops to Iraq. The vast majority of them, 5 brigades, will be deployed to Baghdad. These troops will work alongside Iraqi units and be embedded in their formations. Our troops will have a well-defined mission to help Iraqis clear and secure neighborhoods, to help them protect the local population, and to help ensure that the Iraqi forces left behind are capable of providing the security that Baghdad needs.
Coherence of strategy. I don't know how many United States senators believe we have a coherent strategy in Iraq. I don't think we've ever had a coherent strategy. In fact, I would even challenge the administration today to show us the plan that the President talked about the other night. There is no plan. I happen to know Pentagon planners were on their way to the Central Com over the weekend. They haven't even Team B'd this plan. And my dear friend Dick Lugar talks about coherence of strategy. There is no strategy. This is a ping pong game with American lives. These young men and women that we put in Anbar province, in Iraq, in Baghdad are not beans. They're real lives.
Now we've had more than 3,000 Americans killed, many thousands more wounded horribly, and have spent $400 billion, and the Pentagon wants $170 billion more. And as one previous speaker said, with all the added medical and veterans costs, the ultimate cost of this war could reach $2 trillion. Our Constitution does not give us the authority to run another country, as we have in reality been doing in Iraq. With a national debt of almost $9 trillion, we can't afford it. To me, our misadventure in Iraq is both unconstitutional and unaffordable. Some have said it was a mistake to start this war, but that now we are there, we have to, quote, finish the job, and we cannot cut and run. Well, if you find out you're going the wrong way down the interstate, you do not keep going, you get off at the next exit.
Despite the incredible efforts of our brave soldiers, it is clear to me that an increase in American forces alone cannot resolve this conflict. Therefore, I will support this resolution because I believe that the surge will be unsuccessful without a comprehensive diplomatic strategy to engage the international community and turn responsibility over to the Iraqi government.
The Senator from Massachusetts.
All of us remember President Bush saying, I'm going to take my time and find a new direction. All of us remember that he said, do not rush me. I want to talk to the generals. I want to talk to political leaders. I want to talk to people all over this country and all over the world to find out a new policy. And then he comes out with his policy. And what is it? It's a military policy to escalate in Iraq. That is the issue before the United States Senate. Many of us do not believe that this president is right on it. The Baker-Hamilton Commission did not agree with that policy. General Abercrombie did not agree with that policy before the Armed Service Committee, and the American people don't. We on this side are interested in protecting American servicemen from the crossfire of a civil war. Some on the other side are more interested in protecting the president from a rebuke for his policy of escalation in Iraq.
Our main enemy is al-Qaeda and its affiliates. Their allies choose their victims indiscriminately. They murder the innocent to advance a focused and clear ideology. They seek to establish a radical Islamic caliphate so they can impose a brutal new order on unwilling people.
I reserve the balance of the 5 minutes.
Mr. President.
Senator from Delaware is recognized.
Mr. President, I have great respect for my friend from Arizona. Our troops don't lose war. Bad policy, bad leadership loses wars. They deserve a policy. They deserve a plan. There is no plan. We went to war with too few troops. We went to war unnecessarily. We went to war with these men and women ill-equipped. They're coming home ill-served. It's about time we have the courage to stand up and say to the President, Mr. President, you have not only put us in harm's way, you have harmed us. You have no policy, Mr. We gave the President specific authority, which is our responsibility. It was to take down Saddam if need be. It was to get rid of weapons of mass destruction that did not exist. And it was to get compliance with the UN resolutions. Every one of those have been met. Saddam is dead. There were no weapons. And Iraq is in compliance with the UN. So if you want to be literal about it, his mission no longer has the force of law.
Here's the thing about the Iraq debate, by the way, is I don't hear a lot of discussions about what happens if we fail. But there needs to be a serious discussion about what happens if we create a vacuum into which radical movements flow. If you're worried about Iran, then it's really important that people understand the consequences of us leaving before the job is done. I am deeply concerned about what would happen in the Middle East should America's credibility be diminished as a result of us not keeping our word, as a result of us abandoning millions of people who are anxious to live in a stable, secure, free society.
This war is lost, and that the surge is not accomplishing anything as indicated by the extreme violence.
So in about 2 weeks or so, we'll have all of the forces for the surge, all the combat forces on the ground, and you're going to see the launch of a number of different operations in a number of areas to go after al-Qaeda and other extremist elements.
What can you say to American people who automatically assume that a surge in troops means a more secure Baghdad, means fewer U.S. casualties and not more?
Well, what all of the commanders on the ground have said repeatedly is that this is going to be harder before it gets easier. You have to retake the sanctuaries. You have to regain control of the Baghdad belts. In some cases, you have to regain control of certain neighborhoods.
How concerned are you, though, at this point, that the political piece of this is not going to be there for you?
Oh, I'm concerned. Again, this is what we're about. This is why we're doing this. We can do so much, and then it clearly is up to the Iraqis to make the most of the opportunity that our soldiers and their soldiers and police are fighting and in some cases dying for.
General Petraeus, in the counterinsurgency manual that you wrote, it says that even the strongest U.S. commitment will not succeed if the populace does not perceive the host nation government as having similar will and stamina to our own. The question I think that everybody is asking is, how long will this take? And at what point do we say enough?
A new security agreement months in the making. If the Iraqi parliament approves it, U.S. forces will leave Iraqi cities next year and will be largely out of the country by the end of 2011.
The heavily guarded Green Zone now reverts to Iraqi authority under terms of a security deal with the U.S. A handover ceremony took place at Saddam Hussein's former presidential palace. Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki proposed January 1st be known as Sovereignty Day from now on.